Hey guys, welcome back. So today I thought we would actually talk about the fundamentals of shooting. So this is completely unloaded. I've already checked the chamber, there's nothing in here. So we are just going to run an empty mag. Alright, so the fundamentals basically, how to shoot so you can shoot accurately. Now there's a huge difference of shooting accurately and taking your time and being under stress. We're not focused on the stress factor today. It's just when you have the time, can you put a hole inside the hole inside the hole over and over and over again? Basically like running a bullseye drill. So how to do that and do it effectively. So there's 5 basic things that you have to do to shoot accurately when it comes towards a pistol. Now, one thing that I hear is that a pistol is extremely difficult compared to a shotgun or a rifle, and there's a reason behind that. The biggest reason is where your rear sight and your front sight is. Those two posts need to be like aligned with one another, but because the radius is so short in comparison to a shotgun or a rifle, if you have a little bit that's off, you're extremely off at a distance. Now, we're going to kind of fix some of this, so you should be able to shoot a little bit more accurately. So, number one, what I want to talk about is your actual aiming of a firearm. So, aiming. Again, you have a rear sight and a front sight. When you go to aim, there's 2 different things that you should be focusing on. The first thing is sight alignment. Sight alignment just means the configuration of your eye in relation to your rear sight and your front sight. So it's like a vehicle. You can align the wheel and the tires of your vehicle so it goes straight when you let go of the steering wheel, but it doesn't make you a better driver at all. So to shoot accurately, the first thing you guys have to do is align your rear sight in relation to that front sight so that at least your gun is sitting flat or whatever direction you have it pointed. It should be in line with that. Now, you have a sight picture. Sight picture is your eye with the rear sight, the front sight, and also the target. So we don't have a target in here tonight or anything. I just want to talk about this. So now it's putting your aligned sights on your target so you should actually be able to hit it. So what I'm going to do is come over to the camera. I'm going to try to get my rear sight and my front sight in focus for you guys so that you can actually see this. And I'm going to shut the dot off on here so you can maybe see it and not get so distracted. So you can see right here we have the rear sight, and that's definitely in focus right now. Well, in front of there we have our front sight. To shoot this gun accurately, what you have to do, or my favorite saying for it, is equal height, equal light. And what I mean by that is if I were to put something across my rear sight, I need to put my front sight underneath my finger or whatever that imaginary object is that goes across so that they're parallel. It's not focusing on the dots for the sight post necessarily. It's just getting the posts so that they're parallel with one another. Now, the next part, and excuse me, not parallel, we need them flat, okay? So not like one here and one below it. We actually need them right in line with one another. Now, equal light, and what I mean by that is if my gun is over towards the right like this, I'm not going to have the same amount of light on the right-hand side versus the left-hand side of my front sight post. But because my front sight post is closer to my right rear post back here for my sight, you can see that my gun is no longer sitting straight, but it's canted over to the right. Therefore, I'm going to miss to the right. The same thing if I move it over towards the left, I'm just going to miss left this time because my gun is not sitting straight, but in fact it's starting to be canted right or left. So we need the gun to sit perfectly flat towards whatever we're trying to shoot at. So that's your aiming. Now as far as your hold control go, a lot of times people aren't really thinking about their hand positioning so much. They just grab the gun and they try to shoot it. But notice the important feature back here. This is called a beaver tail. For that beaver tail, you have that web between your pointer finger and your thumb, and you want to hold it as high as possible. The reason why is if you fail to do that and you're trying to shoot right here, every time you pull that trigger, your slide's going to come to the rear. And I'm going to release the mag for a second so we can clearly see this move. So if I'm holding too low like this, and the gun goes to recoil to eject the last casing and load up that next one, watch where my muzzle just went. I can't control that. It starts whipping in your hand. But if I slide that webbing all the way up top like that, now when I go to do it, I can control that way better simply because I have a better grip on the firearm. Now, revisiting the grip, all right, on this side, this is all real estate of the grip, and that's super important. You want to take as much of that space up that you possibly can. So what I like to do again is just pick up my thumb, build the thumbs up with my other hand, and put that meaty portion of my palm actually on the grip as high as possible so I don't interfere with my slide. And now my thumbs are parallel with my barrel. So perfect. We have a great grip right here. Trigger control. As far as that trigger control goes, if I have too much finger on here and I try to pull my trigger, I'm going to start pulling the gun to the right because I'm right-handed. If I have too little finger on the trigger, the harder I try to do it, I start driving the gun towards the left. Again, because I'm left or right-handed. If I'm left-handed, it's just going to be the opposite. So, my whole goal is to drive my trigger directly back towards my chest so that I can shoot accurately and not push or pull the gun one direction or the other, but straight back so that I can release that trigger and have a shot hopefully hit what I was aiming at. So, what do we have next? Breathing. It's cold in here, so you guys can probably see my breath. So this is what I would like to do here. Once you have that good grip on your firearm and you're actually aiming at what you want to hit, practice that breath control. So breathe in. Notice how my gun goes up. That's natural. I'm not going to fight a natural thing. Exhale. Perfect. At the bottom of that exhale, I can pause my breath, finger on the trigger, and start pressing directly back. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Perfect. When you guys heard that audible click, you didn't see my gun go left, right, up, down. It was perfectly flat. That means I controlled my trigger how I should. So I'm going to put my empty magazine back inside the firearm, and we're going to do this again. Now the last step, okay, the final fundamental you guys should be working on is your follow through. After that trigger went click, because I'm not actually shooting, you didn't see me dangle the gun or anything, but I kept pointing as if I was ready to take a second shot or a third shot. That's so important. If you guys start falling in the habit of bang, and now we call this peeping, you want to see what you just hit, so you start peeping every single time. You go to lean back in. At some point, you begin to kind of get lazy with it. So you're no longer driving the gun straight back and keeping your muzzle pointed at something you are prepared to destroy, but now you're pointing it towards your toes. And when you go to lean in, now you have a gun pointed at yourself or pointing it up in the air and leaning over, both of which you don't want to do. So always remember, bring the gun straight back. But during a gunfight, you're probably not going to be drawing the gun back, but we say look for work. So you're always looking for that next threat. So what I would like to say for this one is after you're shooting, so squeeze, 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 the gun finally fired, keep the gun out there. The reason why is if you have to shoot again, you're not going to hear the audible click anymore because the gun is, or the striker's already forwards. So you're not going to keep hearing the clicks, but notice how I continuously presented the firearm, continuously pulled my trigger as if I was simulating shooting a second, third, fourth round off. So that's your foundation. Step number one, remember aiming. Sight alignment, just your sights being aligned perfectly. Sight picture, your aligned sights on your target. Grip, number two. Having a proper grip is truly going to help you shoot way more accurate. Number three, your breath control. Breathing in, exhaling at the bottom of the breath, pause. No one's Michael Phelps, so okay, don't try shooting 15 rounds with the one breath. One breath, one trigger pull, perfect. Trigger control, that's your last step right there before follow through. Exactly. All 5 foundations, it's everything you guys should be practicing when you're out there and you're trying to work on your accuracy. Hope some of those tips and tricks helped you guys. If you do enjoy the channel, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, whatever you need to do. It helps us, beat the algorithms here. So I'd appreciate it. Thanks again.